Hey guys, and welcome to another Mortal Kombat 11 Spawn themed video. Now today with Spawn out, I wanted to go over all of the big references we've had in-game involving the character, as well as the Easter eggs and nods towards other games, and characters he may have met in his universe as well as other universes. Now I do wish to reinforce this point, that I will be breaking down his intros and telling you all what some of them may in fact be referencing to. Also, all intros here are provided by MK Ice and Fire, so before we go on to our breakdown and analysis, please go over there and give him some love. I will provide a link for his channel in the description below, but without any further ado, let's get on with it. Now first off, let's go to the mirror matches that Spawn has in game, as there is in fact a lot of references and nods towards his own Image comic universe, as well as some other characters that do reside within it.
Whatever deal you made was a mistake. I kill you, I get my soul back. There's always a catch.
Now for any of you who are aware of Spawn, I suspect a lot of you will be familiar with what this is referring to, but for those of you who don't, the deal in question that is being referenced to is the one that Al Simmons made upon his death with Borja, the demon and ruler of the 8th Circle. By doing so, he was able to come back to life. However, Borja tricked Al and sent him back to Earth 5 years after he had passed, hence why one of the Spawns say there's always a catch.
Sir John. Think again, toast-faced killer. Violator. How many times am I gonna kill you?
Now this is a super interesting one, and probably many of you are wondering who the hell is Sir John. Well, you see, Al Simmons wasn't the first person to make a deal with Borja. Back in medieval England, a knight by the name of Sir John of York perished in battle, and because of the misdeeds he created in life, he would be sent to hell. Upon making this deal, he would be sent back to the world of man and become what is known now as the medieval Hellspawns. To redeem his past life, he would travel across England doing good deeds, but this would eventually get him killed, as he came across an angel known as Angela, who specialized in hunting the devil's minions. Now onto our next reference, and this one should be quite clear in this intro anyway, is the reference to the Violator. A well-known antagonist in the series, Violator is both a nuisance and a guardian to the Hellspawn. Recruited into Hell's army to keep an eye on them, the Violator is a demon who relishes on human suffering and loves to tease a Spawn's misfortune. Because of this, the Violator and Spawn have clashed multiple times, with Spawn killing him every here and there, but it's never really stopped the Violator from returning.
Am I dreaming? We're back in hell.
You let Wanda down! Let us all down! Enough of these mind games.
Now here is a reference that some of you may not get if you've just been introduced to the character, and that is his ex-wife Wanda. Wanda was Al's sole reason for returning back to the mortal plane, as the two were deeply in love, but upon his return he found out his best friend Terry had married her, and the two had a daughter known as Cyan. The failure that the Spawn may be referring to isn't entirely cut and clear, but it may be referring to the fact that Al died in the line of duty, or that after Al died as a Hellspawn, Wanda was accidentally killed, so he wasn't around to protect or save her. So this references Spawn 250, I believe, when Al finally returned from Limbo as Spawn.
This has Mammon's name all over it. Mammon is dead, asshole. But maybe I should be thanking you.
Now here's a pretty big name drop. Mammon is an extremely powerful demon that resides within Hell. Being a former ruler of the 9th Circle, he is an extremely powerful demon. He did in fact become the new overlord once Spawn defeated Borja, but this reign didn't exactly last too long. In saying that, however, Mammon did make a pretty big impact on the series, being part of a huge plan to strip Al of his memories as well as his suit, returning him back to the world of man and giving himself the opportunity to become Hell's new ruler. With this huge player off the board now, the world was his for the taking. At least that's what he thought. It wasn't long till Simmons returned and finally put an end to his rule, defeating and sealing away the demon in issue 184.
Part metal, part meat. Like Overkill.
He was an inferior model.
You'll join him on the scrap heap.
In this Easter egg interaction, we get a name drop from a recognizable antagonist in the Spawn series, Overkill. Overkill is a cybernetic assassin and one of the first big bad Spawn went up against in the early days of the series. Although visually a cybernetic monster of a man, Overkill proved to be nothing more than a lackey and was quickly dispatched by Owl with his newfound power.
You know I'm not the only Hellspawn.
Nor I the only Nightwolf.
Guess we're just meant to be friends.
Of course, as I briefly touched on it earlier, Owl isn't the very first Hellspawn. In fact, the series has had multiple different ones over its years of existence within its own expanded lore. One of the earliest spawns is in fact Cain, from the biblical story Cain and Abel, but Cain would later cut his ties to the devil and change his name to Cagliostro. We then of course have the medieval Hellspawn, who I did talk about earlier, and of course the second spawn after Owl died, that being James Downing, who did take over the mantle for a substantial amount of time till Owl returned in issue 250. But these are the somewhat main and recognizable individuals in the series. There are many different spawns in the series and expanded universe, like the Spawn from the Godslayer series and Lord Covenant from Spawn the Dark Ages. There's lots and lots of different ones that have been made over the course of time, but these two in particular live in the expanded canon.
You're Al Simmons. Worked for Jason Wynn.
The hell do you know about that?
Jason Wynn's an enemy of the state.
Now yet again, we do get a rather big name drop. For those of you who don't know who Jason Wynn is Simmons' former boss, and the one that ordered his execution in Botswana by Chapel. The first saga of Spawn's comic book run is him dealing with Wynn and his weapon trafficking. As well as this, Spawn understandably did want revenge, and the two would clash on many different occasions. Wynn himself in fact does temporarily become a redeemer, but this doesn't go on for too long. Despite the bad blood and war between Simmons and Wynn, it would in fact be the second Hellspawn, James Downing, that would be responsible for finally putting Wynn down.
I hear you're Satan's general.
No, I'm King of Hell.
And I'm Queen Shit of Fuck Mountain.
That was terrible. But we're here for the references, not for the attempts at witty dialogue. Now, of course, we got two huge references to Spawn, that's being Satan and Spawn being the King of Hell. Now, first off, Satan is in fact a character within the series. And although Borja is typically seen as the true villain of the series, Satan can be seen as the true ruler of Hell, being stronger than Borja and having power that easily diminishes Mammon. Satan is a huge antagonist in the Spawn comic book run, especially when Image finished up the Satan saga not too long ago. Now, of course, the other reference we do get here is Spawn referring to himself as the King of Hell. Now, yes, this actually did happen for a while. With Hell's throne open, Spawn took it upon himself to raid Hell and defeated the Violator to earn his mantle. But his reign would in fact be cut short, as he would be betrayed by his mentor Cagliostro, who usurped out of his position using the Box of Eden, a powerful magical device that would send Owl back to the realm of man, but this time as a mortal.
You've been to other dimensions.
Each has had its own injustices.
Maybe that's why my soul still burns.
This is easily my favorite Easter egg that Spawn has, and it's clearly a reference to both characters having featured in other fighting games as guests, with Scorpion being a DLC character for Injustice 1, and Spawn being an exclusive guest character for Soul Calibur 2, as the Soul Calibur series has always had the tagline of, "Does your soul still burn?" It's a nice homage and nod to another fighting game series.
Another of Hell's generals.
Recognize the uniform, Scorpion?
I recognize Borja's stick.
Now we finally get a reference to the former ruler of the 8th Circle of Hell, Borja himself. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Borja to many could be seen as the true antagonist of the series, since he was the individual that offered Owl his opportunity to return back to the realm of man, but at the cost of joining his army. You guys obviously know the rest, so I'm not going to repeat myself, but Borja has been a destructive and sinister force in the Image Comics universe, and although he may have perished at Spawn's hand in issue 100, the demon was able to survive and influence individuals through his consciousness, such as one character by the name of Freak, who he did use as a vessel. Now, although Freak did perish, we know that Borja still continues to live on and isn't out of the picture just yet.
You remind me of another Dark Knight.
The billion-dollar crusader. He's a friend.
It seems we are both well-traveled.
Now, of course, I've seen many people get excited over this intro, because yes, it does reference Batman and how Al Simmons considers him a friend. But did you know that the two have in fact had a crossover comic? Two to be exact. The first is referred to as Spawn/Batman, created by Todd McFarlane and Frank Miller, where the pair do battle each other and team up to later take on an arms manufacturer. The other comic book is known as Batman and Spawn War Devil, where the pair once again do battle it out and later team up to take down a demon known as Croatone. Now here's something quite interesting that not many people will know, and this is referring back to the first comic book I talked about, Spawn/Batman. According to the writer Frank Miller, this crossover apparently takes place in the same universe as The Dark Knight Returns and its sequels. So in that little timeline and continuity, it looks like Spawn exists in the same world as Batman and Superman, which is a pretty fun idea and concept, especially when you take into account how popular The Dark Knight Returns is.
Power like yours has limits.
My power is drawn from the Jinsei.
Let's see Jinsei beat the ninth sphere of hell.
So this reference isn't somewhat character driven, but does pay homage to the universe and nods towards its influence. You see, within the Spawn universe, there are different levels and layers to hell. We typically don't see anything outside of the 8th or 9th circle, but still this in itself is a cool reference and interpretation of hell, as it is clearly inspired by Dante's Inferno, which does explore the 9 circles of hell.
Your boss threw you to me like red meat.
Shaw can trust me to finish the job.
He's using you to test my power level.
Now this is absolutely one I could be looking a bit too far into, but when he references power level, Simmons may in fact be referring to the necroplasm counter. You see, upon a Spawn's return back to the mortal plane, they have a somewhat power level counter, and said counter clocks out at 9,999. This will slowly tick down over the course of time as they use more energy, and once it's depleted and gone, they will be sent back to Hell as part of Hell's army. Although the power of Spawns are somewhat finite, there are definitely ways of replenishing their energy. This could be from killing other spawns, or finding a source of energy that could recharge them.
Last giant bug I met trying to eat me.
You speak of the Flebiacs.
Of course you uglies know each other.
This is a pretty interesting reference. Now for those of you out of the loop, the Flebiacs are a demonic family from Hell, with Violator being the most infamous among them. Now the family consists of the Violator, Vindicator, Vandalizer, Vaporizer, and Vacillator. All are servants of Borja and are incredible demonic beings in their own right. It's just a shame that the brothers never really see eye to eye. Fun fact about the Flebiacs that some of you may have not noticed, but you can in fact see all of them in Spawn's arcade ladder ending, where the Violator there is in his clown form with his 4 other brothers.
You are no angel, Al Simmons.
I'm done punishing myself.
The Elder Gods are not finished yet.
Here is a slightly on-the-nose reference to God Spawn. You see, at one point, Spawn did somewhat transcend his Hellspawn form. During the Armageddon story arc, where heaven and hell finally clashed, Spawn revealed his true power granted to him by the Man of Miracle, a deity that existed before both God and Satan, and a level of power that Simmons had allowed him to destroy both of their armies, somewhat postponing Armageddon. But this didn't stop the planet from becoming a burning wasteland. Now with the power of a god at his fingertips, Spawn would recreate the world in his image, dialing back the clock and allowing himself to become Al Simmons once more. But sadly, it seems like his role as a Hellspawn is a ripple in time, as he would quickly go back to being one once again. So I believe that the reference to wings here is a reference to God Spawn, as it was a very impressive feat for the character. But yes guys, that's all the Easter eggs and references I was able to find whilst cooking up this video. Now please do keep in mind, I'm well aware aware that some of the Easter eggs and characters I've mentioned here are referenced to more than once in game, so I have seen them, I just didn't want to repeat myself and waste your time. The inclusion of Spawn has been great, and honestly I love a lot of the Easter eggs and references we do get in the intro. Hell, there's a bunch in the costume selection, but in today's video I strictly wanted to focus on what's heard in game from verbal exchanges, as they are always fun to break down. If you want one where I go through the costumes and talk about what they're referencing to or who they're referencing to, let me know down in the comments below. As of right now I don't have a plan to talk about them, as next week I will be talking about the state of Mortal Kombat 11 and what I feel is coming next for the series and studio. But yes, that wraps up everything I did want to say here. So as always, if possible, let's try getting this video to about 500 likes, as it's an incredible way of supporting this channel, and also do not forget to tick that bell and subscribe, as it will notify you when I do upload more content. But that will be it for now. So as always, please comment, like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. Please take care, and I'll see you all next time.